All right, let's try that again with some sound. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me. So I trying to get all fancy and stuff with the loader. So that's a work in progress. We'll see how that works moving forward. But good morning from me. Morning wise, it's morning for me. Um, I'm in the middle of the United States, so it's morning, and I apologize if my voice is a little scratchy. I actually put in a lot of hours this week at work, and a couple nights ago I was up till about 4 in the morning, so I'm still trying to do a little bit of catch up there when it comes to sleep and energy. But thankfully, I've got my coffee this morning, so grab your beverage of choice, and we'll try to stay awake together as we talk through some of these things today. So thank you for joining me. I see the chat is already hopping, which is awesome. And awesome. Thank you. You guys can hear me good. I should have checked that a little bit earlier. So I think we already have more viewers and more people online during a live stream than we ever have before. And granted, we haven't done a live stream quite like this in the past. This is kind of new territory for me, probably new territory for you, and maybe probably something that's a little bit more interesting than some of the other live streams might have been. But hopefully you guys find this enjoyable, find it helpful, and are willing to continue coming back and sharing with us. So sorry, let me pull up my notes here. I want to see if I think there's a way I can pop out this chat so I can move it over. Oop. All right, can I come over here? Sorry. See, this is what happens when you work with people who are new to what they're using. Okay. All right, so now I've got the chat in front of me. Get my old man glasses pulled down a little bit here since I'm getting old these days. And okay. So one of these buttons does what I want. There we go. Okay. If you are, obviously a lot of you are already popping in the chat here, but if you're watching online and live and you want to say hi, please say hi. I'm probably going to miss a lot of stuff, especially since we've got more people in here than I'm used to. So if you say something and you want to get a hold of me, put like big DMD or something in front of it. If you're just chatting and saying hi to everybody else, just chat away. But if you have a question, if you would put like several like question marks in front of it, that would also help me just be able to visually find what's going on, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and so I'm probably not going to be as involved in the chat as we often are when we're going through and doing live stream. But I want to try to catch things if I can as much as possible. So yeah, if you are watching live, say hi. Let me know where you're from. I know we've got viewers from all around the world. I think it was somebody I saw earlier. I mentioned that it was morning, and they're like, morning. It's morning for me. So anyway, well, let's go ahead and get this thing started. As you know, I'm Dev Mentor Dave, and I have a slogan. What is my slogan? Wow, I just completely forgot my own slogan. That's pretty bad. Basically, the idea of the Dev Mentor Dave YouTube channel is to help junior devs go from learning code to launching a successful career. And those two endpoints are really on purpose. For those of you who might be new, those two, the starting point and the ending point, is purposeful. So from learning to code means that you've already put in some effort. You've already maybe taken like a boot camp, or you've already done some sort of training or something like that. So you're already sort of a junior dev. And sometimes I will put things out for people who are looking to get into the industry. But really my goal is to take people who've kind of already, sorry. Hopefully your ears didn't just get blown away. My goal is, I'm a hand talker. So my goal is to help people who've kind of already started the journey accelerate their progress to getting to be a full-time, really senior level developer is what the goal is. So so that's the goal. So that's why I say from learning to code to launching a successful career. So there's just a lot of stuff in between there that unfortunately takes time and takes mentoring and takes effort. So that's what I want to do. I want to help provide some of that mentoring as much as I can. Obviously not one-on-one, but in a group setting or via these videos and things like that to help you maybe think through a lot of things that you haven't thought about before. And so really that's the impetus of what we're trying to do here with this specific live stream series on Saturday mornings is we want to build a project together, not just to build another project, because you can go to any tutorial website or you can go to any other tutorial YouTube channel and you can build all kinds of projects. Most of the times it's learning something new as you're building that project, but you can build all kinds of projects. And I want to try to, as much as possible, give you a better glimpse into what it's like to work with a team, to work under leadership as opposed to just trying to do it all by yourself. So we'll get into all that here in just a minute after I grab some coffee. And give me 1 second here. I'm going to text my wife and see if one of my children can bring up some water because my voice is already going. So I wanted to start really first of all, especially for a lot of you that might be new either to the channel or a lot of you that might be new to me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find that link on the Dev Mentor Dave YouTube channel in the links section. I think there's like an About Me section or something like that as well. But just real quick, I know I've kind of shared pieces of my story. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just so you know who I am a lead developer at the company that I work for. And what that entails is, and sometimes in mentoring, I've been a lead developer in multiple companies. And so sometimes, thanks, water. Sometimes that involves mentoring, but a lot of times that involves project management, also development inside the project at times as well. And so as a senior developer, as a lead developer, somebody who deals with projects all the time, I thought it was a really good idea to make this series so that we can kind of take some of that experience that I have and help you guys kind of get used to what it's like to work under a lead developer, under a senior developer in a real project. We probably won't have any deadlines like you would in a real project because I don't want to give you that kind of pressure. But that's kind of who I am and why I'm doing this. I've had the opportunity to mentor several developers one-on-one and in a work environment, and I just love it. I love helping junior developers understand what they're doing better and really build their career, take them from learning to code to launching a successful career. It's not just a slogan. It's my desire. It's what I really enjoy doing, what I like to do. So if you're here for the first time, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you around more in the future as well. Let me just look through here, see if I'm missing anybody. That's saying anything to me specifically. Nope, you guys are just talking away to yourselves. Awesome. This is really cool. When I first started this channel, this is what I was hoping to do, really more live streams than videos. And seeing you guys in here, that's just awesome. I'll try not to get emotional here on you. So, okay. So, what are we doing? We are building a project, and I think, what did I name this? I just named LiveStream. Let's build a project together. But I've been kind of tossing around ideas, like we've got the Dev Mentor Dave Community Learning Project. That's kind of a mouthful. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to see if we can come up with a code name. You know, a lot of like projects have code names that they use internally so that people don't know what they're working on. Because sometimes, you know, names of platforms are descriptive as to what they do. And so they'll come up with these code names, right? So I don't want to just be like, hey, we're gonna do XYZ project. We need a code name for this. So if you think about it while we're going on this morning, think about what would be a good code name for this project that we can put up maybe in the GitHub or something like that and call it that. So feel free to share those. Do like all caps code name and then give me the code name that you want or that you think would be a good code name. And it doesn't have to be right now. It can be as we go through and talk about what it is we're actually going to build under this project. All right. So again, why are we doing this? Well, what are we building? Let me tell you that. We're going to be building some software that is going to handle personal finance, personal budgeting software. And why are we going to do that? We had several ideas that were thrown out in previous live streams. But the main reason why we're going to do that is because I need it. I need better software for managing my budgets. Now, that's not the main reason, but it is kind of a real reason why we're doing that, because I have been using lots of different budget software over the years, and quite frankly, none of them really work the way that I want them to work. And maybe the way I want them to work isn't the way everybody else wants them to work. I admit that I'm probably odd, and that's okay. But we're going to build a budget software. We're going to start small, and then we'll add to it over time and build something that I think could be very useful. But it's not just for me, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but as developers, we need to be careful to manage our finances well. One of the downsides of this industry is that there is a high likelihood that you're going to, at some point in your journey, be without a job. And that's not because of you being it bad. It's not even because necessarily the company is a horrible company that you're working for that lets you go. It's just a reality of the industry. Most devs stay at their position for less than 2 years at a time. And again, there's lots of factors for that. We won't go into that this morning. If we want to talk about that more at a later live stream or video, I've talked about that in some other videos. But the reality is that your tenure at a specific position is often fairly short. And one of the things that we need to do as developers is make sure that we are taking our finances into control, and that we're making sure that we're not caught off guard when that happens. And so really, this budgeting software is something that I think every developer should use once we've got it built. Either just personally, they pull it down from our GitHub repo. I don't know, maybe we will make it an actual application that people can jump on. We'll see. That's not necessarily my goal with this project, but we'll see what happens. But I think we need people to understand that you've got to control your finances, whether you are here in the United States or around the world. You've got to plan for those times where you are not going to have a job. And part of that really comes down to budgeting and sticking with your budget. And so what I want to do is I want us to provide a well-written, useful tool for other developers to be able to use to manage their budgets and finances eventually. I've got lots of ideas and dreams of what we could add to this in the future, but we'll see. We'll see where we get over the next few months. So that's why we're doing this. Number one. Number two is that I see a lot of junior devs out there just kind of spinning their wheels, doing a lot of tutorials. Tutorials are not bad or wrong. I actually have my most popular video was picked up by another YouTuber and reviewed, and so it has lots and lots of views. But it's talking about how tutorials are bad. They're not bad as long as you use them the right way. And unfortunately, most junior devs don't know how to use them the right way. And so what you end up doing is getting in this cycle of tutorial after tutorial after tutorial, and it feels like you're making progress. It feels like you're succeeding at doing something, but in the end, you're just kind of really doing the same thing over and over and over again. Cache canvas. Ooh, that's interesting. I like that. All right. Send me some more. Any other ideas for a code name? That's cool. What was I saying? Budgets. No, spinning your wheels. That's right. So, um, yeah. Thank you, Brad. Like the video. Like the video. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Join us. If you're not in the Discord, hopefully the link works this time. Down in the description. Join the Discord channel. Where we're starting to try to build that community up a little bit more, make it a little bit more vibrant as much as we can. But anyway, so a lot of devs are out there spinning their wheels, doing tutorials, but they're not really building real projects, and they're all doing it siloed on their own, just watching a video, trying to follow along, or reading documentation, following along. And again, none of that's bad or wrong. Even as a senior developer, I do that. In fact, I've been doing that, learning some new stuff myself. So you have to do that stuff, but you're not usually getting the experience that you really need to go from just learning to code to launching a successful career, to where you could actually be hired and get into a role and work well within a team. And so that's the real impetus for all of this. Is I want you guys to know what it's like to work inside of a team. Now, it's not going to be exactly the same. Obviously, we're not, in the same location. A lot of teams these days are remote, but there's not going to be the same type of deadlines. Your livelihood is not going to depend on how you do on this project. So obviously, there's some big differences between the real world and this, but I want to try to get this as close as possible from an experience standpoint as we can, so that so that you guys can kind of get that feel, so that you can understand some of the requirements and some of the feedback that you would get on code, and maybe pushback even as to what you put up in your PR, or maybe even it's not working. Okay, I'll get that updated. I don't know why I set those links to never expire, but somehow they keep expiring. So I don't know if I'm just doing it wrong. Sorry, I'm new to the Discord world, so I apologize. I will get that updated, and I'll post a comment on this video and let everybody know. And I'll probably leave a post on the community page, let everybody know that I've updated that. So thank you. Yeah, got in before I did. Nice. So that's why we're doing this project. It's not a tutorial project, so I want to make that very clear. This is not going to be me developing a budget app and you guys watching. All right, this is not going to be me giving tutorials on how to use this programming language or this framework or things like that. We may talk about some things here and there, especially depending on the decisions that we come to. It might be helpful to have some of these live streams be some very high level tutorials of tools or things like that that we want to use. Because we even do that sometimes in the dev world as well. We'll do things like lunch and learns, where during a lunchtime, people will come and somebody will give a presentation about, something new that we are using or that we might use or things like that. So we might take a few of these live streams to do that, but this is not going to be a tutorial where you follow along as Dave codes this budget software. We're not doing that. All right. There's lots of other channels out there that you can get that type of content, and that you can get that type of training. And that's not me. I could do it. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel though. So my goal is to manage this project with you guys and help you guys kind of take that role as the developer or the developers and move forward with it as if we are a team. All right. So I just want to make that clear here at the very beginning. This is not a tutorial series. I'm not going to be developing, well, I might develop some code along the way, but my goal is not to be showing you how to write code. My goal is to show you what it's like to be a part of a team. Now, there will be times where we'll do live reviews of pull requests. And so in that case, I might do some code writing to kind of show you how I would do things, stuff like that. But that's going to be very limited in this process, most likely, because again, that's not the goal for what we're trying to do here. All right. So let's go back to what are we building? We're building a budget software. next week, I actually have, I don't have it cleared out. I need to clear out a copy of it so I can show you guys without my personal information in. But recently I have moved to, excuse me, one of those no code solutions to manage my budget software, to manage my budget. Um, I've done it for years on spreadsheets. You know, you don't have to have some wow special program to be able to manage your budget, but I want one. I want one that works the way that I want it to. So I've been using one of those. I think it's Airtables is what it's called, but it's a no code solution. And if you're a developer and you're using those, I would highly suggest you only use that to prototype, because once you get into that, you see the limitations really quickly as far as what you can and can't do. At least in the free version. I'm sure there's a lot more things you can do in the paid version, but I don't want to spend money. I don't, especially $20 a month. I don't want to spend that for something that I'm just using as my personal budget software. So I've got that up there. I'm gonna make a copy of it and kind of clear out my personal information. But I want in the future to kind of give that as some examples of what we're gonna do moving forward, and some of the features that I'll want to add in. So be looking for that probably next week on our live stream. I'm going to show you kind of what I've built in there as just kind of a base idea, so you get an idea of the struggles of something like that, and the problems, and even some of the ways that I've had to rethink how I would program it in order to fit inside this this software. So it's definitely not the way that I would program it in order, but you have to do it certain ways to get things to work the way that you want to with Airtables. So I'm going to show that next week on our live stream. So be looking forward to that, and kind of getting an idea of what I've used in the past. If you, how many, just for a quick show of hands, you know, just say hi or something, or I have, or something like that. If you've ever used actual budgeting software, or actually if you've, let's do this. So if you've never used anything to manage your budget, like you don't have a spreadsheet, you don't have any budgeting software, nothing like that. If you've never used anything, say never used it or something like that in the chat. I'd be interested, or actually just say used it or not used it. Used it or not used it. So let's just see. I just want to see what kind of feedback we have here. If you don't want to say that you haven't used it, it's okay. If you haven't used it, there's many people who do not use any budgeting software or plan with their money. So don't feel bad if you don't. But now's your chance to get started. All right. So yeah, that's what I figured. Wow. Maybe we need to do a class on budgeting too. Holy cow. Yep, I've been on Mint. Mint is moving, unfortunately, and they're not keeping all their functionality. I don't have money to manage. That would be a problem. But of course, if you plan, then when you do have money, then you've got a plan, and you've got management. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, hey, if you guys want me to, I can go over. I can do a video on how to budget if you want, since a lot of you haven't done this before. But anyway, this will be a great a great opportunity for you, not just to think about how you would build a project, but how you would manage your money as we go through it. So this is probably a good thing for you guys to participate in. Excuse me. Good question. I just happened to see this. So if you have a question, make sure you put some question marks in front of it, just so it catches my eyes. My eyes are getting a little old these days. I probably need to get bifocals. Yeah, so somebody asked, how long is the stream going to be? Usually the stream goes an hour. Depending on interaction, things like that, it'll go an hour and a half. We haven't gone more than an hour and a half just because I haven't had the time. I have it budgeted for an hour and a half today, just to kind of go for that overlap. But I would typically plan on the stream going for about an hour. So hopefully that helps you from a time management. Yeah, well, the bulk of that's a great question, actually, moving forward, since we're going to try to do this almost every week. The bulk of our content each week is going to be within that hour. If we go longer, it'll be more, answering questions or just interacting and banter and things like that. So, if you're watching live and you need to specify the time that you're going to be here during that first hour. That's going to be the time that we really spend on the content that I want to cover each week for the project. Great question. Yeah, no, absolutely. I know you guys definitely have other things to do, especially those of you who are across the world and it's very late. It's you want to get to bed at some point. So, uh, the great thing about the live stream is that it does get recorded on YouTube, and so you can always come back and watch it if you have to leave or if you have to miss a week. So certainly don't feel bad. And of course, we do have the Discord channel, which I will fix the link to again, and I'll get that updated so that we can manage that. Actually, can I do that right now? Let me just try. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get a new link. Never expire. Oh, hang on. Where is the... I don't know. I'll get it later. I don't want to take up time here. Okay, so I'll get that link fixed, but join the Discord channel because we'll be more active moving forward since we've got this project. There is a new section of the channel that I'm going to put in today that is for the live stream project. So we'll have several channels in the live stream project section of the Discord channel. So once I get that link put out there, you can jump in there and kind of see the communication and interact on a more daily basis. If you have questions throughout the week or something like that, you'll be able to post those in there. And that way we can kind of interact around this project. I am not in there all the time. I try to get in there once a day. Sometimes it doesn't work depending on my work schedule. So just FYI. Excuse me. But yeah, great question. So try to be here during the main hour, the first hour. And if it goes longer, we'll talk about other things. I'm getting ready to answer that question, Matt. So that's literally the next thing on my list. So next week we're going to demo the current system, but we will need some UI designs. I am looking into either using some sort of templating system or potentially seeing if somebody wants to provide some designs. Designs are a little bit down the road. We want to talk through some more things about the project over the next couple of weeks and kind of get some plans in place before we get the designs figured out. So, but that's going to be something that I'll be asking I'll probably ask it in the Discord channel, and I'll ask it on the community page on YouTube. But if somebody is interested and has the skills to do some designs, and you have like a Figma account or something like that, let me know. Contact me. Either you can contact me via my website, devmentordave.com. There's a form there. You can contact me on the video, leave a comment on the video. You can contact me in the Discord channel. Lots of different ways that you can contact me if you're interested in adding some designs. I really don't want to do anything too crazy, and I don't want to necessarily put a lot of money into this. This is just a community project thing. So I don't really want to hire a designer, but if somebody wants to just provide some simple UI and things like that, or if somebody has a preferred theme or template or something like that they think would be good to use as a base point, that would be great. Right now, would just stick with some sort of free component library or something like that initially, unless we have somebody that really wants to jump in and do some design work. So I'll be honest with you, Matt, you do not want me being the designer on any project. I'm a coder. I can make it look the way that you want it to look, but you got to show me what you want it to look like. So you do not want me designing this project for sure. We are going to be building this as a a web application. So we're not going to venture into the world of mobile apps. It'll be responsive because we want it to be able to work on mobile and tablet. But we're going to stick to basic web application development. That's my bread and butter. It's what I do every day. And so I think that it makes the most sense for me to lead a project that has to do with that instead of all of us learning something new at the same time. So we're gonna stick with just kind of a basic web app structure for that. So I think somebody asked that quick, native or web app. Yeah. So CW, we're gonna do just a basic web app. Oh, Dean, you're talking my language. Vue.js. I got some hate recently in the fact that I like Vue, but yeah, I'm a Vue guy, but I know a lot of people don't learn Vue right away. In my opinion, Vue is much better than Angular or React. And I actually have a couple of React projects at work right now that I'm leading, and I still think Vue's better, even though we're using React. Native desktop or web app. We'll go with a web app for now. There are actually some pretty cool tools that you can do to transport those to desktop. But I think, again, since we're doing this for developers, they should be able to pull it down from GitHub and run it, right? If you're a developer, you should be able to pull it down, follow the README, and run the application and do it from there. So that may not be as great for keeping things stored, but, you know, we'll figure that out as we go. So what are we building? We're building this budgeting software. So what is MVP? So now we're kind of talking about, everybody's asking questions about front end and back end and things like that. What is MVP, or minimum viable product, right? So what is the main thing that we're trying to be able to reduce? We're going to talk about this more next week because as I kind of show you next week what I've built in that Airtables thing. And so we'll talk about that in more depth next week. But basic minimum viable product is I want to be able to have something that you can build your budget. So you can create all of your budget items, maybe even be able to do that separately or copy it from month to month. Excuse me. And then, so you'd be able to put in all of your different bills, your income, track your savings or debt, things like that. And again, we'll go into this in more detail probably next week as we talk about what MVP actually looks like and what we're shooting towards. But that's the goal. So the first goal is just managing my budget, being able to put these items in. Really, it's kind of crud at the base of it. Most web applications, most applications are mostly crud: create, read, update, and delete. Right. So that's the nucleus of almost every project. Is you've got forms and you've got database, and you don't necessarily do a whole lot of processing, but there are going to be some things that we'll want to do some automated processing, either based on a specific time or based on button clicks, things like that. And we'll go into that into more details as we go. But I want to be able to input budgets and input bills. So you have your budget line items. This is how much I'm going to spend for this category, or how much I have budgeted for this thing. For example, my rent or my mortgage. This is how much I've budgeted for that. But then we also want to be able to add a bill for that rent, or, you know, from the landlord, or for that mortgage payment. And we want to be able to view that in a calendar view. I found that really helpful to myself using Mint. They have a calendar view. So we want a calendar view. We want a listing view. One of the big things that is not in most budgeting software that I've seen, it might be, but at least in the free stuff that I've used, is the ability to kind of set a date range or set when you get paid. For example, some people get paid every week. I get paid every week. Some people get paid twice a month, but it's like the 1st and the 15th of the month. So it's kind of a weird time frame. Some people just get paid bi-weekly. So there's lots of different ways people get paid. And for me, one of the biggest struggles is knowing what I'm going to do with my money for this week, for this paycheck. Whether that's, hey, I need this amount of money to go on my credit card so I can pay those bills, or I need this amount of money to stay in my bank account because these bills are automated and they're coming out, or I have some excess funds from this paycheck that need to not be touched because they need to pay bills for the next paycheck because the next one doesn't cover it. So there's lots of craziness that can go on with budgeting. And if you don't think through all those things as you're budgeting, you are going to, you're going to get caught with no money, or you might spend money because you think you have it and you should use it for the next week or something like that, or the next pay period. And so that's the biggest thing that I want to do from an automation standpoint, is think through that process and give people the ability to designate sort of how that works. And that's a big piece of it that's down the road. All right. That's going to be more complicated. We're going to think through that together. We're going to talk about how that process will work. So don't get scared if you just heard me say a lot of stuff and you're like, I have no idea how I would ever start doing that. It's okay. We're going to go through the whole process together. We're going to talk about it. We're going to walk through ideas and concepts as we go. So please do not get scared if you just heard me rattle off a bunch of stuff. I keep looking over here to see if somebody left because of that. But don't get scared if that sounded really difficult and confusing. We're going to go through that whole process. That's part of my job as a lead developer, is making sure that you understand what it is that you need to develop. And so we will make sure and give that in clear tickets moving forward. So we will have a ticketing system. Right now, we'll probably just kind of give assignments here. I'll probably post the assignments in the description once we're done. And we'll, probably put them in Tab Mentor Dave, Discord channel, things like that. So it'll be kind of high level tickets to start with. And then once we start actually working on the code base, we'll have actual tickets that can be worked for the project. Now, those tickets will not be assigned to any specific individual. One of the questions that I got that I want to kind of jump into now is how can you get involved? So obviously the first way that you can get involved is jumping on the live streams like you have here. We've got a lot of people on here. This is awesome. So just being on the live stream is huge. Answering questions. If somebody posts a question in the chat and you know the answer, please feel free to give that, because there's a good chance that I'll miss it over time. So I'm going to try my best, obviously, to keep seeing these questions and answer them. But I want to make sure that you guys are interacting with each other and helping each other, because that's one of the big things about being a part of a team, is helping each other. So join the live streams, answer questions, give feedback. If I have a question for you, give me your feedback so that we can make decisions together. One of the things that makes a good lead developer is that they're not just a dictator. They don't just tell you what they want to do. They try to work with the team and find the best consensus. There may be times where I just have to make a decision, both as the guy that's running the project and as the lead dev. So there are going to be times where I'm just going to make a decision and you either like it or you don't, and I'm sorry. But sometimes we'll definitely put things out there so that people can give their opinion, and we can come up with a consensus, hopefully, on a lot of these things. So join the live streams. That's the way you can get involved. Share your ideas. If you've got ideas for this budget software that I haven't thought of or I haven't written down and put out there for you guys, throw it out there. I mean, there's no reason why we can't make something that's better than anything else that's out there. I think we should. And I think we should do it, and we should provide something for our fellow developers that's going to make their lives easier in managing their money. So if you have ideas as we go down the road, we may implement them, we may not, but throw them out there. That's part of the project development process. In every team that I've been on, almost every developer has shared opinions and ideas for the project, because at the end of the day, we want to build stuff that's cool. We want to build stuff that works. We want to build stuff that's helpful. And so if you have ideas that you think that you think will make this project cool or make this project more useful, please share them. That's what we want. We want to have a team that's dedicated to making this thing the best that we can make it. Again, we don't have a specific time frame, so maybe this thing will take a year. We'll see. Either way, whether it takes 3 months, 4 months, or a year, depending on how we go about this, or longer, whatever it takes. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for you guys to get involved. So share your ideas. If you can't join live stream, like I said, please watch them later. That's not just to boost my ratings on YouTube. All right, it helps, but that's not just for making my YouTube channel better. That's really for you, just to make sure that you get caught up and stay caught up on where we're at in the project, because I don't want to spend a lot of time every week rehashing things that we've done. To that point, I want this to be as if we're a team, and we're just moving forward with the next piece of the process. So so definitely, if you can't be on here live, watch this later so that you can participate and continue going in the live streams when you are able to join, or in one of these other ways that we talk about. Obviously, share this with other junior developers. I know a lot of you have lots of contacts with other junior developers in the industry, either through your training or just people that you've met along the way. Share this project with them, share this live stream with them, so that they can decide if they want to be a part of something like this. Because I want this to be as helpful for as many junior developers as possible. Obviously, if you're a senior developer and you're watching this, you're free to join in too. Actually, it'd be great if you're a senior developer and you want to join in and help provide some feedback on pull requests and things like that. So we'll get into that here in a second. So definitely watch later so that you can at least learn and grow with us, even if you're not going to participate from a code standpoint. Third way you can participate is join the Discord. We talked about that already. We're going to do a lot of communication inside the Discord as this project ramps up and we start doing more and more with it. So there will be a lot more communication in Discord. So make sure that you join the Discord channel. We'll have probably a lot more of the voting on different things. Won't be done here in the live stream. It'll probably be more in the Discord channel. So make sure that you jump in on that. Yeah, send notifications. Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely want to put something in like that. Parker, we don't have a language decided on yet. We're gonna move forward with the project concept first, and then we'll decide on a language and frameworks and things like that as we move forward. One of the things that you don't want to do is just decide that I build everything in this language or I build everything in this framework. You may have a preferred way of doing that, and it's not wrong that that's your preferred way of doing it, but sometimes you get hired at a company and you've got to learn something new because that's what they're already using. Or a client might bring a project to you or to your company, and it may not be what you're used to, but you take on the job and you learn on the job how to interact with that specific language or that specific framework. So you definitely want to not pin yourself in at the beginning of a project and say, we're going to build a project in React and Java, and just decide that, this is what we're going to do. What makes more sense, honestly, is what devs are used to. Now, I think with this project, we might just make a choice more based on what I'm used to make it easier for me to do PR reviews, which means that a lot of you might have to learn some new stuff, but that's also part of the job. So if you've got to learn some new frameworks, or you've got to learn even a new language, this is a great way to do that, to kind of force you to learn the things that you need to learn in order to do the tasks that you've been assigned. All right. So we're not going to decide that right now. I have a few ideas. We'll probably have some discussion in the Dev Mentor Dave Discord channel around that. Ultimately, I will make a decision on that, but I don't want to do that right here at the beginning and just say, hey, we're building this, like it or not, so let's, we're going to give it probably a couple weeks here and let that simmer. If you have ideas, if you have preferences, we'll talk about that in the Discord channel. Let me see, just make sure I'm not missing anything before I move on. Okay. So the last way that you can get involved in this project, obviously, is by coding, right? So we are going to have a GitHub project. I haven't decided if we're going to do this as a public GitHub project or as a private GitHub project. Public would be nice because then anybody can just create PRs for it. But I also want to keep track of who's actually participating, and maybe give them a little bit more access. So I haven't decided if it's going to be public or private. If you guys have any opinions on that, let me know. I don't want to exclude anybody, but I do want to make sure that those who are going to actually be submitting code and working on the project, I want them to kind of be able to do that without necessarily worrying about the entire world having access to it. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. I've never actually worked on an open source project. Everything I've ever done has been private. So that's probably working against me wanting to keep it public. If it makes more sense to you guys for it to be a public project, then we'll do it that way. But let me know what you guys think. Am I going to judge you if you write really bad code? Yes, I am. No, I'm just kidding. No, what I would do as a lead developer in any situation, if I see that somebody has submitted code that is not good code, I would probably not leave a lot of comments on the PR review, on the pull review request, because you don't want to leave a bunch of comments on a pull request that other people can read if there's a lot of, feedback that you want to give. Usually what you would do is you would maybe point out one or two things, and then you would get with that person, privately as a team member, and just be like, hey, let's walk through some of this. Now, I may contact somebody if I see a PR that I think would be a good example or use case. I would contact you and see if it's okay with you if I use it on one of our live streams doing a live pull request review. So that case, that might get a little touchy, but if you're okay with it, then I'm never going to be rude or mean to you. I may point out some things and you might feel maybe a little bit dumb for not knowing something, but that's how we learn, and I don't want to skip over that piece of it just to make people feel better, because that's part of working on a dev team, is having your code reviewed by other people. Hopefully they're kind in the way that they do it. Sometimes they're not. I've seen it both ways, but I try to be as kind as possible. And especially if I'm doing something public, I'm going to be kind in how I interact with that. Hopefully, that's my goal anyway. So yeah, if you write really bad code, nobody has to see it. You don't even have to necessarily make a PR for it. But I will always ask if I want to use a pull request in a live stream. I will always ask you ahead of time. I might leave a comment maybe on the PR if I can use it. And just because I use a PR in the live stream does not mean that it's a bad. It could be a good example that I want to share with people too. So don't just assume that if I ask you if I can use your PR, that it's going to be a bad thing either. So it could be good. Interesting. Okay. Everybody seems to be more on board with the private. That's cool. All right. So getting involved, join the coding team. So you'll have access to the repository if you want to be on the coding team. There will be a coding team channel in that live stream section of the Discord. You'll be able to see that once you get in there, once I get the link fixed. So there'll be a way to actually see specific information for the coding team. That will not be private because I want people to be able to see that, but we will put specific things for the coding team, those who are writing code as part of the project. Now, that doesn't mean you can't follow along or write your own code. Let's say we decide to do it in React and Java, Java being the backend language, which I don't think we will, but I'm just using that example. And let's say you're just not a Java person, or you're just not a React person. You want to do it in a different way. Follow along, build it out yourself as we go. And you won't be submitting code to our project, but make your own repo, build it out. Let's say you prefer PHP or you prefer Node for the back end and you want to do it in that. That's great. It won't be part of the code that we'll be doing and reviewing, but you can still do that on your own if you prefer a different language. So I know I was talking to, I think it was Parker I was talking to on one of the videos that I put up recently, talking about static versus dynamic languages, and I think Parker prefers this static language. So maybe Parker builds something that isn't part of this project if we are probably going to be on a dynamic language, but he can do it on his own and build it out there. So sorry, I'm assuming I hope that's okay. Um, Yeah. So I think we're going to probably go private on that. But yeah, so write code, submit code. And again, this is what I was going to say earlier. We're not going to have like a one-to-one ticket assignment. We'll probably have tickets that are assigned to the team, and we'll have, so everybody's going to be submitting code, at least initially, for the same thing. So that'll be good to even look at other people's pull requests and see how they're doing things versus how you're doing things, and see maybe you can learn from each other as you look at other people's code as well. For pull requests, look at other people's code. You can give PR reviews. That's another way that you can get involved. Maybe you go a week and you don't have the ability or the opportunity to spend time putting into any effort into the ticket for that week, but you can go in, you can see what other people have done, and you can provide feedback for a few minutes on a couple of PRs. I'll write it in C++. Here you go. I had a feeling you would. Yeah, Rust. Go actually would be pretty quick, but that might be a steep learning curve for a lot of people. There you go, David. Absolutely. Learn as you go. That is the name of the game for us as developers, period, is learn as you go. So that's just the way that it works. So look at PRs and then give feedback on them. And then of course, push code, and this will get a lot more clear for us as we kind of define who's going to be pushing code, who's not going to be pushing code. That'll get a little bit more clarification as we go, as far as how those tickets are going to be done. Since we're going to have a private team of code pushers, I'm going to look into actually using a ticket board, since everybody seems to be good with that process. Again, if you're coming into this like halfway through the project and you want to be on the team, or if you start not wanting to be on the actual coding team, but let's say you, after a few weeks, you're like, I want to help participate in the project, just contact me. We'll get you added. There's no special requirements. There's no fee or something like that you have to pay to get in. So it's just a matter of trying to keep things a little bit more manageable when it comes to those who'll be interacting with the code base itself. But we'll definitely have lots of opportunity to look at people's code here on the live stream, so you'll be able to learn through the process. We're going to talk about the project and where it's at, things that we're going to be adding to it, all the whole project plan, all of that will be on the live streams for the most part. So you're not going to miss out on something if you don't jump in right now on the coding team. In fact, that's going to take a couple weeks probably to get up and running to actually be a coding team. So, but we'll set that up in the Discord channel so we can kind of keep some of that information a little bit segregated moving forward. So that's all the ways you can get involved. Watch, learn, grow, participate in the coding team, and really use this as an opportunity for you to learn what it's like to be a part of a team. So interact with other team members, not just on the PRs, in the chat on the Discord. Interact, ask questions. If you need help with something, if you need something clarified, ask a question. Don't make an assumption. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we put up kind of our first few tickets. The way that you might get tickets varies from team to team and from ticket creator to ticket creator. Some teams have standards, some teams don't. So we're going to talk about all those different things that are part of the process of a project moving forward. So don't forget, if you have ideas for a code name for the project, leave them in the comments here, or leave them in the chat if you can, or if you're watching this later, leave it on the comment section. I'm going to give it a week and just kind of see where we're at with code names. Leave them in the Discord channel if you want. Just let me know that that's what you're doing. Don't just write a code name up. Tell me code name, project code name or something, and then give me the code name. We had one that was thrown in here already. That was pretty good. I have to go back and find it. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. But I'll go back through the chat and find that and put that on my list. So give me a code name for the project. Next week, we're going to look at that example that I kind of created in Airtables. We're going to talk about how we handle data, how we handle structuring data. And that's probably going to be the take-home work or the ticket for next week's live stream, or from next week's live stream, just kind of give you an idea of what we're going to talk about next week. Yes, PRs and pull requests. Sorry. Thank you, guys. if you're not familiar with what a pull request is, we'll talk about that in the coming weeks. So hopefully you are. If you've gotten some sort of training, you've got some idea. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what a pull request was until 2014, I think. So, and I've been writing code professionally since about 2009. So yeah, all of my stuff was not, did not have version control until 2014. So it's all right. Oh, thank you. Thank you. There it is. Cache Canvas was the name that was mentioned before. So if you have any ideas, I know we've got some creative people on here. Just because you may not design things very well, like me, I don't design things very well, doesn't mean you can't be creative. I think I'm creative in some other ways. So, we need some coffee. All right. So next week, we're going to talk about data structure. We're going to talk about what I currently have in my thing, which is horrible because of the way the Airtables works. It's not the way that I would want to do all of my data anyway. But we're going to talk about data structure. So be thinking about that. But I would say for next week, the best thing that you can do is go out there and just do some research on, especially those of you that don't budget at all right now. Go out there and do some research on budgeting. Do some research on maybe some other budget software out there to get some ideas of functionality that you think might be good for us to include down the road. Currency conversion, that's a great question. I had thought about that actually earlier today. That is something that I think that we should add to it to be able to manage it in whatever currency you want. I think for now we'll start with USD and then add on to that later, because one of the things that we're going to do with this project is we're going to introduce something called scope creep. We're going to introduce things into the project as we go, just like a client does. Because it's happened on every project I've ever worked on. Sometimes they are successful in getting the scope creep in, sometimes they're not, depending on dev money. There you go. So sometimes they're successful getting it in, sometimes they're not, based on the people involved in that account management process and the developers. But almost every project I've ever been on has scope creep, and so we might use the currency question as a scope creep part of the way into the project, just to see how that affects the project when you allow something like that to come in, especially if it's not planned. And how do we handle that? How do we plan bringing in some of those things? So we're kind of going to go through a lot of like project management stuff along the way, so that even though as a junior dev, theoretically you should have senior devs or lead devs or other people in the company who handle a lot of that project management planning, maybe an architecture, a technical architect or something like that as well. So you wouldn't necessarily have to know everything that we're going to go through, but the more you know, the more you understand, the better it will be for you in the long run as a developer, not just now as a junior, but in the future, and the better it'll help you move forward as a developer. So one of the things that you need to know when you're starting a project is, what are we actually building? And you need to understand as much as you can of the industry. So if you're not familiar with budgeting, go watch some tutorial videos on how to budget. And get familiar with the concepts, get familiar with the terminology. As developers, we have to get familiar with industries and terminology that we're not familiar with in order to build the project that helps the client. Like if you're building a project for a manufacturing company, you need to understand when they say widget, what widget is referring to, how that fits into the project. So get used to what we call the nomenclature. What is the things that the verbiage that is used, right, in that industry. So, and what that means. So you want to get used to that. So that's your homework for this week, your ticket for this week, as part of this project, is get familiar with budgeting, get familiar with budgeting plans, terms, get familiar with budgeting software that's out there free. Please don't pay for anything. Just look at the free stuff. But get familiar with the industry of budgeting. If that's an industry, I don't know, but get familiar with it. Kind of is, since there's software for it. But get familiar with the concept of budgeting this week. And next week, we'll be looking at the software that I'm currently using that I don't like, that I built on Airtables. And we'll be talking about data. We'll be talking about data schemas. We'll be talking about basically our database structure and the types of things that we need to think about for building out our MVP. So again, our MVP is going to be the ability to create a budget and the ability to add bills to that budget so that we can see what's coming ahead. And then once we've got the MVP, then we'll start adding on some more of these features that you guys are mentioning, some features that I have in that I want to include, things like the notifications for bills and stuff like that. So we'll definitely do a lot of that stuff moving forward. Feature flags. We might use feature flags, especially those are very helpful when you have to do things that come in from a scope creep standpoint, or if you need it to be available in a certain testing environment but not in production environment. So yeah, feature flags might be something that we'll implement, probably not right away, but that may be something that we implement as we start adding more features to the MVP. So yeah, good call out there, David. If you're not familiar with feature flags, basically that's a way of designating in the code whether or not this feature or this piece of the code should be active when the code runs. So you would usually have some sort of flag or name for that type of that feature, and then you'll have conditions in your code, and so that'll either run or not run, or show or not show based on those features. So that's what a feature flag is, in case anybody doesn't know. CW, yeah, we're going to put together, so we'll have tickets, and those we'll be putting posts in the Discord channel. We'll be putting tickets up in the ticketing system. So I will keep track of kind of all those things as we go in the live stream of the Discord and in a ticketing system for those that are part of the team, the coding team who want to actually submit code. So there will be a couple of different places that we will kind of keep updates. We'll keep a history of things that we've talked about. It's not going to be real super detailed. I'm not going to have like AI or anything write it all out, but yeah, I will keep a list of the things and update that on a weekly basis, just so everybody can keep track of what we're currently working on and what we're where we're going in the future as well. So yeah, MVP, minimum viable product. So the minimum product that is actually working, that can actually do something, right? That actually meets a need. One of the things that we're not going to add right away, but we'll probably add in the future, is the ability to have accounts. So if we ever wanted to make this a product that, you know, was out there, we'd make it to where somebody could create an account in the application. I think we're going to start just though, assuming that you're just running it locally. But that would be something that is not part of the MVP. It's not part of the minimum viable product. So yeah, good call out there, Brad. Let's see. See if I'm missing any other questions here. That's everything that I wanted to talk about specifically about where we're going and the main project idea. Again, we're going to several things. One, I'm going to write these down myself here. Hang on one second. Okay. Number one, come up with ideas for a code name. Number two, your homework for this week, or your ticket for this week, is to go out and get familiar with budgeting. So that's terminology, understanding how budgeting works, understanding how you would use it, because next we're going to talk about data, and you'll need to be familiar with terminology in order to build out your database schema, your idea of what that should look like. So do some research, which is not the fun part of being a developer, but unfortunately, especially at the beginning of a project, it's something that you have to do. You have to do some research. So, all right, that's the two things. Come up with a code name, send it to me, and then do some research on budgeting. And we're going to dive into budgeting specifically a little bit more, and what I've used in the past. I'll probably show you a spreadsheet too. So I'll show you a spreadsheet, and then I'll show you Airtables, and we won't go into Mint since it's going away anyway. But familiarize yourselves with budgeting and budgeting software and things like that. for this week. So let's see. Any other questions? I don't know what we're going to use for ticketing yet. There's Trello is free. I think Jira you have to pay for. I'm kind of opposed to paying for anything if I can. Somebody had mentioned in the Discord channel that GitHub actually has one now. So I might use that for the program, for the coding tickets. I'll have to look into it and see what's available there. But whatever I use, I'll make sure that the code team has access to that. And then any general tickets like this one, like these today, will go inside the Discord channel. I'll just post them there. So, excuse me. Thanks. Yep. Come up with a code name and search and analyze budget software industry features. Perfect. All right. So that's everything that I wanted to discuss this week. Again, next week we'll talk about data. We'll talk about databases. We'll talk about budgeting software and features and terminology. Just make sure we're all on the same page and understanding the industry that we're building this application for. And then we'll kind of get a little bit more clarification on what MVP looks like with my Airtables example. And then obviously answer any questions and feedback and things you guys have. So that's everything that I had planned for to specifically go over today. But I've got time to hang out and just shoot the breeze with you guys. If you guys have any questions, either related to the project or related to other things, certainly feel free to throw those in. At this time, this is just kind of a free-for-all time at the end of the live stream. So if you have any questions, put several question marks in front of it just so I can see it. But I'm going to try to keep up here a little bit with what's going on in the chat, answer any questions. Let's see. I got the whiteboard one. Yeah, let me see, since I'm done talking about the important things. Let me see if I can get that. I thought I had the link, but let's see. Is it under invite people? Okay, I'm setting the expire to never. No limit on uses. Generate a new link. Copy. All right, I'm going to put this in the chat. If I can find it again. Here we go. All right, I'm going to put this in the chat. And pin it. All right, so that should be pinned at the top now. That should work. Somebody test that and see if that link works. Thanks, Dean. Good to have you. All right, somebody test that. Let me know if it works. And I'll update the details here in the link below. So that should hopefully work. Can we talk about the tech stack? So we're going to talk about that eventually. The first thing that we should do with the project is not decide what tech stack we're going to use. We should evaluate the project and what we're going to build first. I have an idea of where we'll probably go, but I also want to get feedback from the group because I don't want to make everybody that's going to submit code learn something new. I want people to be able to jump in and participate as early as possible from a code standpoint. So I don't want to just make that decision right away. So we'll talk about that. Celestino, hopefully I said that right. Awesome, link's working. Okay, I updated that in the description as well. So if you don't see it in the live stream chat, especially if you're watching this later, hopefully the link is updated for you in the description and available. So awesome. All right. So it sounds like everybody's excited. I'm excited. Hopefully you stay excited as we dig in and start actually building this thing. I have a feeling there might be some fall off after a while. That's that's kind of the way it works with most projects. Even when you're getting paid for it, you reach a point during the project and you're like, oh man, I am I am done working on this. I do not want to do this anymore. So my request for you is, if you hit that wall during this project, push through it, because that's a real world issue, and you're going to have to do that if you're in a real paying job. So if you hit the wall in this and you just don't feel like continuing to work on it, it's a little bit easier to quit when it's not something you're getting paid for. But I want to encourage you not to quit. It may mean that you don't spend as much time on it, and that's okay. But don't quit on the project if you start it. Now, if you just don't have time, that's understandable. Nobody's going to get judged if you start working on the project and then all of a sudden we don't see pull requests from you for a month. We're not going to judge you. We're not going to call you out. We're not going to ignore you when you try to submit another PR, a month and a half later. We understand life is hectic, and not everybody can do this every week, especially for something that you're not getting paid for. It's just helping build your experience. Typically I tell you, junior developers, you should not do projects for other people unless you're getting paid for it, because you're still spending your time and working on it. And generally that is true. But mine is different. No, I understand if you have the opportunity to work on something that is a paid project, you should do that instead. But for those who may not have that opportunity, I want to give this opportunity to just kind of help you get into the mindset of working on a team. So really looking forward to this. I am really super excited at the amount of excitement that I've seen from you guys. And I know we'll probably have some others that couldn't make it to the live stream today, or this may not be a good time for them at all. And unfortunately we have to pick a time. This seemed to work the best for most people in the past. So we're going to stick with Saturdays at 10 a.m. Central US time moving forward. There will be weeks where I won't be able to do this. Either I'm out of town or just have other things going on. As many of you know, I've got a family, so there's family things that show up, or I'm also a pastor at a church here. So there are things that sometimes come up and happen that might require me to be involved. So yeah, we'll typically be here 10 a.m. Saturday mornings every week, so that we can move this project forward and really interact as if we are a real team. So something that we might do too is have people explain where they're at in the project, have people give a little bit of we'll call a stand-up status review, and maybe do that in the chat as we move forward. I'm kind of playing with how that all will work. It's a little bit different doing this on a live stream as opposed to doing it in like a Google chat, or like a video chat or something like that, where I can see you and interact with you. That's a little bit more like an actual team. Maybe we'll try something like that. Maybe we'll get like a Zoom meeting or something, and have some people who are on the team jump on that, and maybe we'll live stream that or something. I don't know. Lots of ideas. If you have ideas of things that you'd like to see as part of the process of the project, let me know. We'll include that in the process and try to make it as real as possible. Other than the compensation part. You need to make a voice channel for the Discord. I thought I had one. I'm seeing a Hangout one there. It's not a voice channel. Okay, I'll take a look at that and see. I've never used a voice channel in Discord, so I'll try to get that set up. I may reach out on the channel and see if anybody has any suggestions on how to set that up. I'll find. That's what YouTube is for. I'll find a YouTube video and it'll tell me how to do it. So yeah, I thought I had something on there. Maybe it's not set up correctly, so I can do that. Are you talking specifically about a voice channel for the project, or just a voice channel overall on Discord? Let me know what you're thinking there. Yeah, Brad, good point. He said, wouldn't that be how it's done in the industry? Evaluate the requirements and decide what stack to use after you've established MVP requirements from the customer. Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want to just build something because that's the way you build it. That's how you build bad products. That's how you build products that the client's not happy with. Because there's lots of things that go into those questions, like what is the client willing to pay for ongoing, so like let's say you wanted to build a project and you wanted to use all the Amazon Web Services managed services. You want to use API gateway and Lambda functions and DynamoDB and all the really cool SES and all these different things that I don't want to explain right now. But you want to use all those really cool things, but the client doesn't want to use AWS, or they prefer Azure. Right? Or they're already hooked into Microsoft stuff, and so Azure makes more sense. Or they don't want any of that stuff. They just want a monolithic application. Or maybe through the requirements you find out this should be a desktop application, it shouldn't be a web application, or this really should be a mobile application. Or you may come into this with assumptions about the project that once you go through and look at the requirements and talk to the client, and you may realize that your initial assumptions of how you would build it don't make sense for the industry or make sense for the client and their needs. So you always want to evaluate the project before you write a line of code, before you decide on what languages and architecture you're going to use. So yeah, we're not going to write code right away. We may not write any code until April. I don't know. We'll see. But we want to talk through these beginning things so that you understand, even for yourself as a junior developer, if you take on a freelance gig, you want to be able to have the skill set and the knowledge to ask the right questions, to decide how you're going to go about doing something. Now, you may end up still using the language that you prefer, the frameworks that you prefer, the architecture that you prefer. That may still happen. The company that I work for, we have lots of different types of developers, but our bread and butter is Laravel development, which is a PHP framework. We do Laravel and Vue. It's kind of our main thing. That's what we would prefer to work in if we're starting a brand new project. But that's not all the projects that we have. And so we want to do what is best for the client, or what the client prefers as much as we possibly can. So yeah, architecture and coding languages, all that stuff is stuff that we want to do after we evaluate the process. And again, that's why the homework for today is go out there and take a look and see what the industry is like, so that you have a better understanding of the industry and can ask the right questions, in order to make those evaluations moving forward. I would say if we're building something from scratch, if we're building something brand new, we would typically go with what we're familiar with, right? So if I were building a project brand new, I would typically go with Laravel and Vue, because that's what I'm most familiar with right now. Now, I've used lots of other things. I've used Angular, I've used React, I've used Node, I've used a little bit of Java, not a lot. I've used all these other different things and other frameworks, but what I'm working in right now, what I prefer right now, is Laravel and Vue. And so if I'm starting on a greenfield project, a brand new project, that would be my instinct, but we always want to make sure that we're able to change and shift. I actually had a project that I was working on where it was Laravel and Vue, but it was the company wanted to use Azure. Well, I'm not a big Azure fan, to be honest with you. I'm not a big Microsoft fan, to be honest with you. But I would prefer to do things on AWS. So we had to adjust based on the client's preference, right? So that's okay. That's part of being a good developer, is the ability to adjust and learn new things on the fly as you need to. So yes, I got some Laravel likers in here. So yeah, Laravel, it's interesting. We've actually had at our job, we have some C# developers, and I think it's, yeah, C# developers, and we've had to ask them to do some PHP development in Laravel, and most of them have actually been pretty impressed with the Laravel framework. So definitely one that I would be okay with us using. So we'll see. I don't want to force a bunch of people to change, but if people like that, that might be the way we go. We'll see. Yeah. And honestly, there's there's some really good tutorials out there for Laravel. The documentation is fantastic, in my opinion. It's probably the easiest way to get up and running with a brand new framework. Now, you probably want to know PHP, or at least some basics of PHP. But whatever we decide, I'm gonna make sure that we get some information out. Once we've made the decision as to what languages and frameworks we'll use, I'll get some tutorials together, not from me. I'll get some tutorials together that are out there from trainers that I like, from YouTubers that I like, and I'll post those once we decide on that. Yeah, man, this is the thing that I love about developers for the most part. Is I keep seeing in the chat, I don't know that, but I'm willing to learn. And that is the exact mindset that you need to have as a junior developer, as a senior developer, as a lead developer. That's the mindset that you need to have, that I may not know that, but I'm willing to learn it. And that's what we do every day in my job. There's always something new that I'm learning. Even my boss, our technical CTO, I don't forget what his title is. He's the guy that's in charge of everybody. He was showing me some new things that he was learning the other day. So you never stop learning as a developer, and that's one of the things I like about being a developer, and that's one of the things that really I like seeing in junior developers, is the willingness to learn and keep growing and moving forward. Yeah, I am not a Wilson. I am not a Python fan. I know a lot of people like it. It's the whole tab thing. Ugh, I don't like it. I like my semicolons. I like my closures. I like brackets make me happy. I don't know. I'm not a fan. Yeah, it's interesting, David. PHP kind of went out of vogue for a while. In fact, I don't know if any of you guys came to my channel from the Prime Again channel. But thank you if you did. Thank you again to Prime Again. But I know he reviewed one of my early videos on the channel and was very kind, and sent a lot of people to the channel early on, and helped me get some good numbers right early in the channel thing. But he actually did a review of a video recently from actually from the guy who really pushed me into doing this, Aaron Francis. So Aaron Francis, I went to Laracon, and Aaron Francis was the last speaker at Laracon, and basically his whole speech was, get yourself out there and share what you know, and because somebody out there wants to hear it, and obviously you guys are proof of that, and so that's why I'm here. But anyway, Prime Again reviewed a video that I had. I just lost my train of thought. Oh well. Oh, anyway. And so that's why I got a lot of people. Well, I just noticed the other day that he reviewed a video from Aaron Francis on the fact that PHP is actually good again. So there was a time where PHP kind of took a dip. It's gotten a lot better over the last few years, and even Prime Again was like, this actually looks really good. I might be a PHP developer again. And what's really funny is I was looking at the Laracon update for this year in Dallas, I think it is. And Prime Again's actually going to be one of the speakers at Laracon this year, which is a PHP framework. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. I don't know if I'll be going to that or not, but it'll be interesting to see later. They'll post the videos either way. So it'll be interesting to see what his talk is about, since he hasn't been in PHP for a while. And again, it's kind of taken a dip, but yeah, it's definitely coming back. Laravel, I don't think Laravel was the main instigator of that. There's other frameworks too, but Laravel's probably the most popular one, at least in the circles that I'm around. So yeah, but PHP is definitely a great language. I've been doing PHP since 2008, I think, something like that. So off and on, I've taken a hiatus to learn other things. But PHP is pretty much my bread and butter, with MySQL as well. Yeah, Eddie, that's right. You came from the Prime Again video. I remember that. Yeah, what's interesting is, and this is honestly a little bit frustrating to me, from boot camps. Warning, going on a rant. Um, but boot camps typically teach Node if they teach any backend development at all. Um, I'm sure that there are a lot of projects out there that use Node. I have only ever worked on one. Actually, I have two now. One of the projects that I'm working on at my current job has a Node backend. Um, but that was done by somebody else and we took over the project. So I don't know very many people that actually use Node for real life projects. And so that kind of frustrates me that that would be the main focus. I know why that is. They focus on Node because it's JavaScript. Excuse me, it's JavaScript. Um, and it makes the learning curve a little bit easier going from learning JavaScript on the front end to learning to using it on the back end. But it's not one that I would say is the top of the line. You're going to see Java a lot more. You're going to see C# a lot more. You're going to see PHP a lot more. Um, as far as popularity and training and learning, Node's probably the top, but that's because of all the training facilities using it. As far as usage, I would be surprised. Actually, I just see now I got to go look stuff up. Let's see if there's any sort of like ranking. Let's see. Any surveys or rankings? See a bunch of these dumb lists, but they're not like rankings. This one says JavaScript, Python, Java, Ruby, PHP, C#, Perl. I don't I don't know if that would actually be true when it comes to actual projects, you know? That's what I want to see. I want to see a list of actual project usage. I don't really see that. This is more just like popularity contest stuff. I don't know. If anybody ever finds one. Oh, here we go. No, I don't think that's accurate either. Oh well, maybe I'll see if I can find one and post it later. But yeah, I think in my experience, the more popular ones are PHP, Java, um, Rails is still out there a good bit, which is interesting. Um, C# is obviously very popular. A lot of Microsoft development out there. Golang is getting pretty popular these days too. I've messed with that a little bit, but not a lot. I've never used it on a full-fledged project before, but I know that's pretty popular these days too. Yeah, not a Python fan. Uh, yeah, I definitely honestly I don't use a lot of settings for my I usually use VS Code. Don't tell Prime again, I'm not a Vim guy. Actually, I do like Vim, but I don't use it all the time. Uh, but I use VS Code generally, and I don't use a lot of plugins with it, to be honest with you. I will definitely check around whatever we use. I will check around with some of their coworkers and things and get some suggestions. Maybe might even throw that out there to the Discord channel and just see what you guys think. But yeah, we'll definitely get a list together of things that would be helpful. I probably should. I probably should use some of those things just to make it life easier and development faster for me. But I don't know. I get into my own routines and I don't necessarily think about those things. Uh, I tried Node for a simple hello world and never looked at it again. Oh, that's awesome. uh, uh, great stuff with a $1,500 price tag. I don't know what you're referring to, Brad. I missed something, I think, along the way. Spring Boot, yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you learn something and it just kind of goes away because you never, if you don't, especially if you don't have a project to learn on. That's why a lot of people say, hey, if you're going to build something, if you're going to learn something, build a project with it, because if you're building a project, you're more likely to stick with learning that thing longer than if you're just doing like a Hello World tutorial or a task tutorial, like to do list or something like that, something that everybody else does. Something else I may do along the way, I just thought of this, is get a friend of mine on here to talk about budgeting and budgeting software. Um, that would be really interesting, and even maybe talk about some struggles that he might have had. So some of you know, if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, look me up on LinkedIn. I think the link is on the YouTube channel for my LinkedIn profile. Hit me up, connect with me. That way, you can message me and all that stuff. But I've got a friend who I used to work with named Luke Hovey. If you're not following him on LinkedIn, follow him on LinkedIn. He posts on LinkedIn a lot more than I do. And he's really big into helping junior developers get into the industry, helping them have an understanding of what's going on, helping them understand what they need to do to improve. Does a lot of one-on-one stuff with people too, a lot more than I do. Now hopefully he doesn't get flooded now because of this. But anyway, his name's Luke Hovey. Here, let me find his profile, stick it in the chat here. 1 second. Anyway, the reason I bring him up is because he actually wrote some budgeting software a couple years ago, and so I think he might be one to bring in and have some insights into the process, into the struggle along the way. But yeah, here we go. But he's a guy that you definitely want to follow from a LinkedIn standpoint as a junior developer. So, here we go. Let me post this in here. All right. So go flood his account with lots of requests to connect, or just follow him. He's a great follow. He's going to be extremely helpful for you. But I might see if he'd be willing to jump in here and talk through anything specific at some point around his journey of developing a budgeting software. So I don't know if he still has it live or not. I know he had built something and kind of put it out there as a project for people to purchase and use. I don't think I ever used it, but I just thought the process was interesting. So I might drag him in here as a friend and see if he wants to help us talk through some things and work through some things as well. But definitely go follow him on LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn. He's a great follow. So yeah, over promising. Absolutely. That's especially salespeople, man. Salespeople are bad at that. If they don't talk to the developers and see if they can actually get it done in time, or if they can actually do what's being requested at all. Yeah, you definitely don't want to overpromise. What you want to do is underpromise and overdeliver. Be able to add some things in at the end that they didn't expect you being able to do. That is the key to success as a developer. So, or as a company overall. So yeah. Anyway, check out Luke's LinkedIn profile. He could definitely use some more followers. Not that he doesn't have enough already. He's a pretty busy guy, but he's been doing this for a long time. He and I worked together at a company. It's probably been almost 10 years ago now. Well, not quite 10 years ago. It doesn't seem like that long. Wow. The longer I think about how long I've been doing this, and then I look at how much there is still to learn in the development world, it's like, I feel like I'm a newbie sometimes because there's just so much that you can learn and grow, so many different avenues you can go down. That's another reason why I want to do this project too, by the way, is so that you guys can see perhaps other parts of the development industry and the development process that maybe you haven't been exposed to yet. Again, I've talked to a lot of people who are just starting to realize that there are other avenues of working with the back end other languages that are more popular than Node, or whatever they've learned. If maybe they didn't learn anything about backend development. So, yeah, I mean, there's opportunity. There's going to be lots of opportunities in this project for you to learn something new, and for you to maybe even see a different avenue that you might want to pursue from a career standpoint too. Maybe we get into this and you find out I really like, project management. I like the project management piece of this more than I like the coding, and that might be the direction that you decide you want to go. Or maybe we get into this next week, start talking about data and databases, and you guys are like, man, I really enjoy, developing database schemas and working with the database. And I just decide you might want to be a DBA, database administrator. And so you might decide I want to go that route. And because there are people that literally all they do is deal with databases. That's sounds a little boring to me, but but it's a pretty well-paying job. So I mean, there's so many different avenues where if you just go to tutorials, if you just go to a boot camp, you may not be introduced to some of these things. And so my goal is, as we go through this project, to open your eyes even to some of these other areas where you might not know anything about, and might be a good opportunity for you to pursue from a career standpoint. So back in for the win. Nice. There you go, David. I will say, if I had to choose, I do like being a full stack developer. I like having the skill set and learning front end and back end. I actually like DevOps stuff. I pretty much like most of the life cycle of project development. But if I had to choose one thing, it would be back end development, for a couple different reasons. One, I feel like it's easier. I actually kind of had an argument about this with a coworker recently, as to whether the back end or the front end was easier. But I feel like the back end's easier because you don't have to deal with as much client expectations or user expectations. All you have to deal with is the data, making sure that the data is maintained, is structured, that the interaction with the data, the manipulation of the data is correct and working the way that it should. That the APIs are sending back the correct data in the right structure. I mean, you don't have to deal with how people perceive it. You don't have to deal with what people think about the look and the feel and the interaction. So for me, if I had to choose one thing, it would be back end. But on the other hand, I want to create things that people enjoy using too. So I like the front end as well. And then I'm a bit of a nerd sometimes, so I like DevOps stuff too. But yeah, I would definitely agree with you, David, that I'm a back end guy, for sure. So if you're just joining, we're over the hour, over an hour and a half now on the live stream. But if you happen to just pop in just now, we're done with the main content of the live stream. We've really, for almost 40 minutes now, we've just been talking about other things, just interaction. We'll probably do that here for another 20 minutes or so. Try to end right at noon, just FYI for everybody. So if you're wanting to hear about the project stuff and kind of see where we're going here over the next few weeks, you'll have to wait until it's over. I don't know if you can scrub backwards and start back at the beginning. I'll have to look at that. If you can, let me know. I'd be good to make sure people know that. But yeah, if you're just joining us, I keep kind of seeing the concurrent viewers go up and down a little bit. So I don't know if those are new people or just people jumping back on. I don't know. But if you're new, just so you know, we've already covered the main content. We're just kind of hanging out for a while now. Yeah, that's true, David. He's saying that since the client can see the front end, they can be more critical of it. That is true, but you also want to take into account your fellow developers, especially if you're working on a team where you have front end developers and back end developers. I've worked in lots of different environments where you've done both sides, like you get a feature and you do both the front and the back end. I've worked on teams where you have, and projects where you just have front end developers and back end developers. It takes more communication for you to have two different teams on the front end and the back end. It takes a lot more communication and clarity, and you have to be even more intentional about how you develop the back end to make sure that it's giving what the front end actually needs. One of the things that drive me crazy about development, especially when you're splitting it up between front end and back end, is when there's not communication and the front end doesn't communicate to the back end what they actually want from a data standpoint, and the back end just ignores that and they just send back everything that comes up in the query, right? So they just do like a general select all query, and they pull back, like, let's say they're pulling back an object about a car, right? They just send everything that the database has about that car, and maybe the front end is just listing the cars, right? And they don't need everything about that car. They just need like 5 data points about the car. So you're wasting bandwidth. You're wasting memory, providing a bunch of data that the front end devs don't need, and they now have to sift through that, or filter it, or just ignore it, and it's kind of, may not be a pain from a usage standpoint, but when you're debugging things, having extra stuff in there can be annoying and frustrating. So while, yeah, the front end is more critical from a client standpoint, the back end needs to make sure that it's sending things in a well-ordered manner, and that it's manipulating information in a way that's not wasteful of memory and things like that. So you want to do things efficiently. So it's not that the back end is simple and you just kind of do whatever you want, wild west of the back end. You still need to have structure and do it well. But I think for the most part, it's easier from a stress standpoint, especially than the front end, for sure. Trove Stove. Developing my card game hit a roadblock. That sounds interesting. Um, person mains programming. How hard is it going to be to flex to a normal software development job? Honestly, most of the software jobs that I've had, in fact, all of them, I think, have been object-oriented programs in languages. So I don't think that would be a problem at all. I know that there are more functional languages and more functional programming out there, but most of my experience is in object-oriented programming. Um, so I would say you shouldn't have a problem going into a job if that's what you've been working on, which is what it sounds like. Unless I'm misunderstanding the question, Trove. Let me know if that makes sense, or if I misunderstood what you're asking. Yeah, absolutely, David. You can run into security issues with the backend. That's the other thing. That's another reason why backend sometimes gets paid more too. Is it may be easier from a client standpoint and a stress level, but you've got to deal with security. You've got to deal with making sure that your data is stored correctly. Especially in this day and age, that you are encrypting or obfuscating in some way a personal information. So you definitely have to manage some of that stuff from back end that you don't have to think about as much from the front end. So absolutely. Awesome, Trove. glad it made sense. Sometimes I think I understand a question and I go completely off the rails. So glad that was helpful. uh, yeah, I think so too. I I don't know. I've looked at functional programming. I'm not against functional programming. Um, I feel like we tend to think in terms of objects naturally. I think we think of the world in terms of objects, right? We think of the world in terms of my cup, you know, and like there are attributes about this cup, and there are things that I can do about this cup. There's a status of this cup. This cup is X% full, you know, about 50%, right? And so I think we naturally tend to think in terms of objects and object oriented programming more than functional. I feel like, for me at least, functional programming takes a lot more effort. Um, but I think there's pros and cons to both, and I think honestly there's functional programming within object oriented programming, but I think for the most part we tend to think about objects. You know, even thinking about our budgeting software here, right? We tend to think about objects in our budgeting software. Like I want a budget, right? I want a line item in that budget. That's an object to me. You know, it's easier, to your point, David. David, it's easier to think in those terms. It's easier to split up those pieces, and again, to your point, it's easier to split up that work for multiple people as well. When there's dependencies, that can be a little bit of a problem, but especially, yeah, I mean, if they're individual things, I just feel like we naturally tend to think object oriented, and so I think that's why it's easier for us to have that mindset when we're developing. Again, if somebody starts off with functional programming, they probably think I'm crazy. Yeah, Trove, we're not dealing with the IDE or code language yet. Um, so we're going to be working through what the project is. So the assignment for next week is to get familiar with the world of budgeting. If you haven't really thought about it before, if you haven't used budget software before, get familiar with that. Also, we need a code name for the for the project. So if you have any ideas for a code name, post those here or post those in the Discord channel. That link should be updated and working now. Excuse me. So yeah, so we don't have any code up yet. We haven't even chosen languages or frameworks or anything like that. Those will be things we'll discuss as a team, as a group, in the coming weeks. But we want to lay a good foundation of the project itself, and think through the project before we make decisions on architecture and languages and things like that. So yeah, that's why you won't hear anything. You'll hear the same thing that I just said as you're scrubbing through and looking at that. So that's good to know that you can go through that even while we're live. You can go back and do that. I know you can do that on Premieres, but I wasn't sure if you could do that on live streams or not. I've never tried it. I don't watch a ton of live streams myself, but the few that I have, I usually get in right there at the beginning. So I haven't tried. I'm glad to know that it works. Yeah, classes, object-oriented programming. I think that's going to be what we're going to use. Most likely, that's what most people are going to be familiar with. So, yeah, if you go back and listen, Trove, the purpose of the project is to help you all as junior developers get a better understanding of what it looks like to be a part of a team, to develop as part of a team, to get interaction from other team members, to build software that I will be able to use, but not just me, but other developers in the future to be able to manage their budgets. If you go back early on, I give a little bit more explanation, but that's the main thing. The goal is not for this to be a tutorial series. I'm not going to be writing a bunch of code and having you guys watch. The goal is for you guys to be the ones mostly writing code. Now, I might write code here and there as I maybe give examples of things, or as I do PR reviews. We'll do some PR reviews live throughout the weeks, just to kind of help show what that looks like for me to go through a PR and things that I look for. So yeah, definitely go back and rewatch the beginning of this. We kind of go through a lot of that at the beginning, but the basic concept is we're going to build initially a very small, simple MVP budgeting, minimum viable product budgeting software. So it'll be able to create budgets. It'll be able to create bills and assign those to budget line items, and then it will be able to view those in like a calendar view. So, and again, we're going to talk through those requirements in future weeks. Next week, we're going to talk about the budgeting world and just understanding the industry. And then the week after that is probably when we'll get into the actual requirements for MVP and talk through all those different pieces. And we'll have the kind of the visualization of what that should hopefully look like. At least initially, we might get some designs from other people. That's another thing I forgot to re-mention. If somebody is a designer and they want to give us some designs for the software as we go, let me know, and we'll do that as well. Benefits of joining Discord. So the Discord channel gives us an opportunity to interact outside of YouTube, outside of just the videos, the comment section, and the live stream. Obviously, with the live stream going live every week, most weeks on Saturday mornings moving forward, we'll be able to talk fairly frequently here. But that just gives us an opportunity to interact with each other. There's not that many members right now. Obviously, this is a small channel, but as we grow, especially with this project, I think we'll get a lot more interaction on a daily basis. I am generally in there most days. I'm not, obviously I work full time, so I'm not just sitting there watching all the time, but I do get notifications and things. So I try to interact with people as much as possible, but it's a way for you guys to interact with each other as part of this community. But then also we will have a channel that I'm going to get in this afternoon, hopefully, several channels under the live stream project. We'll rename that category once we have a code name. So we've got several, we're going to have several channels in there that you can interact specifically around the project. But the Discord channels there just really for lots of different opportunities. If you have questions about a coding issue that you're running into, that we have a section for that you can put in there, and other people can help you with it or give advice or feedback. It's just a way for us to interact mostly, but then we'll also use it for some interaction around the project as well. So definitely jump in there and be a part of that community as well. Yeah, so we kind of did talk about a little bit, and it was an idea that I had originally, so I'll just take the blame and be like, I just decided on it. We talked about it some in a previous live stream or two, and we had a few other ideas, but most people were on board with doing budgeting, so we went ahead and moved forward with that. But I do not want to just be a dictator in this. I will be a lead dev. That is my current job. So definitely I'm going to lead the project and ultimately make decisions for things, but I want to do that as a team as much as we can. So definitely if you're going to jump in and be a part of this, whether you're coding or not, obviously probably give a little bit more weight to those who are actually submitting code to the project. But even if you're not, we want everybody kind of be involved in this process of making some of those decisions. But I will have the ultimate choice, the ultimate determining factor in that. So in that instance, you kind of be stuck with me, but that's the way it works in every team. The lead person in charge of the team is ultimately the decision maker. And so sometimes they make decisions not everybody wants, which that's part of life. So hopefully it's all right. And if the subject is new, yeah, that is a good thing too, because as developers, we often are working on projects that are in industries that we have no idea about. And so one of the first things that we need to do in the homework that is for this week is to go out and understand the industry, do as much research as you can so that you can understand terminology as the client is using it. You're not constantly having to be like, what does that mean? What does that mean? The more you can understand about the industry, the better you'll be able to provide a product for them. So this week I'm really pushing everybody to go out, understand budgets, how they work, how you use them, and even look at other budgeting software, see what's out there on the market, to get ideas for things that we might add for this in the future too. So yeah, we're gonna be ramping up communication in the Discord channel a lot more now that we've got this project started. I am not as familiar with Discord, so I haven't been extremely active in there, and work's been a little busy too lately, so I haven't been extremely active. But we're gonna get the Discord channel moving a little bit more frequently with more updates and interactions. Now that we've got this project, and now that we've got this weekly live stream set up, so we're going to try to build that community a lot more as we build around this project concept too. So awesome. Thank you, Trove. I did actually get a question in the Discord channel recently about whether or not to use your YouTube names or anything like that. I know I try to just call you guys out by whatever the name is on here. Um, if you want me to use a different name, I can try to remember it. Most likely, I won't. So hopefully that doesn't offend anybody that I'm using your handle here on YouTube. But I tend to do the same thing there in the Discord channel too. So if you want to be known by something specifically in the Discord channel, let us know, and we'll try to accommodate that as much as we can. Yeah, awesome. I mean, I'm not a, I've been doing development for professionally for over 20 years. No, over 15 years, 17, 18 years. See, I did this on the other video, and I'm just not good at doing math that quickly in my head. It's 2024. 2008 or 9 is about when I started doing something for pay, for real. So that's 10, 16 years. We'll go with that. But in all those years, I've never been one to look to for design elements. I know when something doesn't look good, but I can't always tell you why it doesn't look good, and that's not good. You want a designer that's better than me. So I've been a code person. So, oh well. But yeah, if you've got some design chops, we'll definitely use them for this project. Like I said, we'll probably use some sort of CSS framework or at least guide initially. But yeah, it'd be cool to have some specific designs for whatever we call this project. All right. Well, I think I'm going to close down here. It's about uh 2 minutes till noon my time. That'll be 2 hours on the stream. So I I didn't think it would go that long, but we took up the first hour. If you happen to be joining us for the first time in these last couple minutes, I've had that happen to a few people. Thank you. 16 years. Thank you. Um, so if that happens, if you just jumped in here, I apologize. You can always go back and rewatch from the beginning. Trove was just telling us that they were doing that. So, um, yeah, feel free to do that. We've been on for a couple hours now, so I'm gonna say goodbye. But the first hour of every live stream will always be the project specific of the live stream, and then depending on what I have availability wise, I'll try to stick around longer so we can have some of these other conversations and um, you know just hang out and enjoy talking about development and life and things like that. So thank you guys for sticking with me. I know a lot of you have been on here for the whole time, which is amazing to take up 2 hours of your day, especially when the last half has just been kind of talking about different things that aren't necessarily related to the project. So if you are looking to be in the project discussion, make sure you're here for the first hour of the live stream, and then we'll just see how long it goes. We probably won't ever go more than 2 hours, just so we don't take up a bunch of time. But I will try to stick around at least 15 minutes or a half hour afterwards. I try to budget an hour and a half, if not up to 2 hours for this. So thank you all for jumping in here. I was pleasantly surprised to see people waiting. Sorry it took a little bit. I don't know if it came on exactly when it was supposed to. I put together a really, I don't know. I don't think I like it, but I put together a countdown video to play at the beginning. It was okay. I'm not a designer, so that's probably why it doesn't look that great to me. Awesome. Glad it was helpful, Eddie. But if you have any suggestions for that countdown screen, let me know. Um, Awesome. Yeah, that's why I know we've got people, Trove. I know we've got people all over the world actually that are jumping on this. I don't know if anybody in Asia area is on here, but definitely Africa, Middle East, and the United States. So this seemed to be about the best time for most people, since we do have a pretty broad audience. So we're going to stick with this probably. Um, awesome. We're going to stick with this time probably moving forward. I know for a lot of US people, it may not work as well because people like to do things on Saturday or not do things on Saturday, not wake up in time for it. But hopefully it works out for most people. And hey, I again share this with other people, whether it's on LinkedIn or other social media, or just friends that you know, through email or whatever. Let them know about this if they're junior developers, if they're senior developers. I'd love to have feedback from senior developers and get their perspective and help provide answers even in the chat and things like that. So tell everybody about this opportunity that that's a developer, even somebody that might just be wanting to learn about development, that they might find it interesting as well. So spread the news and tell people all about a big coffee cup. Yes, got my coffee cup. Especially Saturday mornings, I'm going to need it. But tell people about this. Again, it's not so much for me, look at all the people I have on LiveStream. It's really for you guys. I want you guys to be able to learn and grow and be helped by this. And if we ever reach a point where what I'm doing is not helpful, please tell me, because I want this to be helpful to you. I want this to be something that encourages you, that strengthens your skill set, that strengthens your knowledge. I want this to be something that that isn't just me talking about what I want to talk about, or me forcing my opinions on you or things like that. I want to be helpful for you. I want this project to be helpful for you. So any feedback that you have, please let me know. I absolutely want to read it. I want to see it. I want to take it in, see if there's something that I can do to change. Because this channel, the whole goal is to help you. And so if you know other people that this would be helpful to, they might find it interesting, even if it's just a project piece. They don't care about the other videos. Actually fine with me. I prefer doing the live stream stuff over all the other videos, but you kind of have to do that to build the channel. So it is what it is. So hopefully those are helpful too. But please tell other people about this. I'd love to. I was super impressed and humbled when I got on here. There were like 5 people waiting already, and like that's just awesome. I couldn't believe it. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much, especially those who have stuck around for 2 hours as we've done this this morning. So I will see you guys next week. Final reminder, in case for some reason you've missed it throughout the live stream. One, submit some code name ideas for the project so that we can choose between those. I'll probably put a poll up maybe on the YouTube channel or somewhere as we kind of get those in. But submit some code name ideas for the project. And then 2, do some research on budgeting. Get familiar with key terminology. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks after we look at some budgeting basics and software and things like that next week, to kind of get our minds around what I've used and what's out there and things like that. So we'll look at some of that next week on the stream. But anyway, thank you again for being here. It was great talking to you guys. I'm going to finish up my coffee, and I'll see you guys 1 a.m. Wow. So we do have somebody out there in the far east in Malaysia. Wow. Thank you for jumping on here so late. So it was 1 a.m. there. So that means, well, you would have jumped on around 11. So that wouldn't have been too bad, but man, that is late. Thanks for hanging in there, CW. Good to have you. All right. Thanks again, guys. Great to see you. I will see you all next week on the live stream at 10 a.m. And then of course, anything that I put out, feel free to watch and leave comments on. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.